Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on this week's sermon recap. And this is just a time that really you and I put aside and we talk about just all the ways that the message is touching us, all the way that we feel God is speaking to us, and just how we can practically relate it to our own faith journey.
Yeah, going beyond the sermon.
Yes, going beyond the sermon. And it's so helpful to have that friend in your life that you can just talk about it on a deeper level, because there's so much power and vulnerability, and there's so many things like when we're planning for this that come out that I never thought.
Yes, all the time.
All the time. So I would encourage you to find a friend or make sure that you're in an e-group where you just have that chance to really like deconstruct all that Pastor's talking about, because there's so many good points. And Easter is coming up.
Easter is coming up this Sunday. You still have a couple days left to invite someone to Easter. At Elevation, we will be here at our Mississauga location on Sunday, 9:30 and 11:30 a.m.
And then Whitby
at 5 p.m., 300 Water Street. So if you know anyone on the east side of the city, make sure you bring them out. Easter, we talked about this last week. Easter is just such a special time to invite someone out, to allow them to experience God in a new way, or in a way for the first time.
And Pastor's messages have been fire recently.
So good.
We've been in this like mini series that he's done about Ruth, and I know I'm biased because it is a sermon about a woman, but I love it. I've never looked at Ruth in the way that he's been talking about her, and just this whole idea of just who she was and the way that she was able to glean in the grieving and like looking for the good in her life, looking for the joy, and making that her focus. And that's really challenged me this past week. So we kind of want to talk about, like, share with us in the chat right now, what is something that you've gleaned over this past week, or something that you've been grateful for?
Yeah. I know for me it's that we've raced 5K. We ran a 5K race.
Our first one, my first one in like over 2 years, probably for you too, with the lockdowns.
Yeah.
And we did better than we thought we were.
Way better than we thought we were going to. We had no training.
Maybe like 1 or 2 runs.
Yeah.
And our time was great. And the fact that we were just even there, we showed up, we tried, it was great. And I feel like I left feeling very refreshed afterwards.
Yeah, I felt like I could just take on anything. Kristen told me when we were racing, so last week, if you watched the lobby, I actually did the hot chip challenge.
Yes, and I could not believe you did that.
And so when we were racing, Kristen was like, you did the hot chip challenge, you could do anything. And so that really helped push me through it. It just gave me like a new strength, an inner strength.
I definitely feel stronger going into this week. And like I could have looked at that as like, oh, we're not ready, it's cold out. My body's not prepared for this, but I didn't. I chose to glean that like, it was great that we're here, it's cool, that's gonna make it easier to run in. And just that we got to be back in person. And those were the things that I was focusing on. And I think your focus, we've talked about it in the messages before, like your focus like determines your direction. And your direction determines where you end up. And I know at the end of this, even if I'm not exactly where I want to be, I know that it's always building me to get stronger. So I love that. But let's jump in to this week's sermon, Blown Away. Let's watch a few sermon clips and then we'll discuss it. So check this out.
I have got to learn to go through my own field and glean things. You got to do it for yourself. Nobody is going to do this for you. You will never reach a moment in time where you go, I've arrived, God is good, and I'm blessed and highly favored. That is a statement of faith you have to make. When's the last time you were blown away by God? When's the last time you were blown away by his benefits? I'm not talking about a BMW. I'm talking about forgiveness. What used to blow me away is now just, I think we got to walk through our field and glean. Lord, I'm thanking you for this. Lord, I'm thanking you for the thing that I don't like right now, trusting that you are going to use it in my future. Can you stand there in the field, surrounded by dirt? Or are you going to say, God, I don't want the dirt, I want the treasure? You have to glean and gather in those moments when you don't even know why you're here or how this is going to turn out. The threshing, when it says that Ruth threshed, it was a process of separation. It was a process of separating the grain from the husk. Process of threshing was very simple. After it had been beaten, you would take the grain that was left on the floor, you would sweep it up and gather it from the clean surface, you would throw it up into the Mediterranean wind, and the grain would fall back down to the ground. But the chaff wouldn't fall back to the ground. The chaff would be blown away. When you see what I'm going to do after you get done going through what you're going through, if you will keep gleaning and stay in my hands through this process, your eyes have not seen, your ears have not heard, nor has it entered into your heart what I have prepared. But when you bump into Boaz, you're gonna be blown away.
Those were some incredible clips.
They were great.
They were so good. I love how Pastor gave us so much context behind what Ruth was practically doing in the field.
I feel like I've read the book of Ruth before, but he definitely opened my eyes to a lot of new things.
Yeah, I think that even I've read through Ruth and I've never really taken the time to go back and understand or look at the context behind threshing, gleaning, all these things that I feel like I could now go in a field and do them, but
you have a whole new perspective about being in a field. Yeah. And I just loved even what he was saying about how there's treasure in the field, but so many times you forget that you forget what the treasure is. You almost take that treasure for granted because you've been in it for so long. Yeah. But Ruth coming in, she was able to glean so much. Yeah. She was able to just have this huge experience in this whole encounter with God by things that we're looking over. Yeah. And I love what Pastor said, sometimes it's more impressive to stay in a situation, and how there's so much to be said about consistency. And with Ruth, right? She just went to work. Yeah. She didn't know if God was fully leading her. She just knew, this is what I need to do. I need to get up. And then just the blessing that came from that, and how she saw God move in her life was so good. Yeah. And certainty is it's not a prerequisite for blessing, because she was not certain. Okay. No. She had no idea what was going to be on the other side of this. So I thought that was so good. So those are my little tidbits. But the whole main premise of this is being blown away and expecting that God is going to blow you away. Yes. So I want to talk about when was the last time God has blown you away?
Oh, I feel like I'm in a season where God just continuously is blowing me away. Every day something happens.
That's a really good season to be in.
It's a great season to be in. I'm going to stay here as long as I can, as long as God allows. But I just know that, I say this all the time, but me coming into ministry and me coming onto staff here at Elevation has been the way God orchestrated everything, the way he moved through it. I quite literally kept saying the words this is just blowing me away. This just doesn't make sense. It's so crazy. But the way it happened, it's it's only God. Yes. It's only God.
And that's the best. I totally agree with you. You coming on staff blew me away. The teamwork that we're able to have is amazing, and our relationship and our friendship, it definitely blows me away all the time. But just to know God was in it, and it was just so clearly him orchestrating all the steps and for everything to happen, it's pretty amazing to look back and know God, that was only you. It just makes, it just makes it even more special, I think. I mean, I think for me, there's so many times where I've been blown away. Your example is perfect, but I'm also blown away that today is Grace's first birthday.
Happy birthday, Grace.
And that's a big deal for me as a mom. I feel the fact that I've seen God just do so much, he's grown me in so many big ways. He's made me stronger as a person. I've learned I can handle more than I think I can. Yeah. And she really lives up to her name. Okay,
God totally does.
She totally such a great baby. Yeah. God has definitely given me the grace to continue to lead in ministry and to be her mom, and she's just been so good and such a blessing to our family and our life. So I've been blown away by that. And then even all the things that are happening at our church. Yes. We've seen so many new people walking through our doors. We had baptisms.
Yeah, baptisms blew me away, especially the last set of baptisms we had during our 9-year anniversary. I was in tears the whole time because I just couldn't believe how God was moving in the midst of all of it.
And the stories I think that are coming out of it, how people are saying they walked through the doors, they felt welcomed right away, and then they were just ready to encounter God by the time they got into their seat. And to see people raising their hands, just to be back in person doing this, seeing those orange Bibles going out to people who make decisions for Christ. I am blown away how God continues to use Pastor Stephen as a vessel for the people, and the way that they're able to just experience God's presence in no other way that they have in their life. So this church honestly blows me away, and I am just so grateful to play a small a small part in just this incredible move of God.
Yeah.
So I love this idea of being blown away. And I think it's so great that you feel like you're in a season where God is blowing you away. But like he also talked about how Ruth went through this time of threshing.
Yep.
And threshing is usually not the season that we want to be in.
No.
But it's vital, and it is what moves us closer to God, and it's what we need to go through so that we can get what God has for us.
Yeah, there's no way for us to I've tried to avoid the threshing season, to avoid those growing pains, the refining moments, but it has to happen.
It has to happen. So like, can you kind of expand on a time maybe where you felt like you've been going through that season and like now you can see the benefit of it?
I feel like I'm always continually going through it in some way, even if it's just me throwing up a little bit of grain into the air. But definitely right when I stepped into ministry, and I know that we talked about this a lot, I just felt like God very quickly had me in a threshing season. He was like, I don't want you to have the desires for these things anymore. Or even the friendships that I was a part of, he was like, no, this is, I threw it all up, and I did pray that bold prayer, like, God, if this is your will, let it be done, but also like take anything away that's not of you and not from you.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I love how Pastor had gave us a great visual of what threshing really looks like throwing up the grain. And in the biblical times, they would wait for the wind from the Mediterranean Sea to blow away anything else that wasn't the like most valuable part of the grain.
Yeah.
And so I just really envisioned myself like throwing these things up to God and then just putting my hands out and waiting for it to drop the things that he wanted me to hold on to.
Yeah, no, that's great. I feel like I've been in a threshing season like so many times in ministry, right? Like we've seen a lot of change in our church, a lot of change even in me. And it's like the same thing. It's like, I love when I can just say like, God, this is all that I have. And I know that you want to do something big, and I have to just be willing to accept that. Like some people are going to leave, and people that maybe you weren't expecting to leave do, and relationships end. And it's all about learning to be okay with that and knowing that what stays is meant for me. Yes. And God has a perfect purpose and calling, and he is going to do his very best work, even if I can't always see it, or if I don't even know the ways that the puzzle is coming together, but he does. And I think that's where this whole idea of gleaning and like really looking for God and looking for the good really makes like a big difference.
Yeah, I know that some of the ladies in my e-group the other night, we were talking about this idea of threshing and how it can be so lonely.
Yes,
like
it definitely can.
You feel like maybe friendships that you've had your whole life suddenly are starting to fall apart or fall away from you, and it really can be lonely. But we see so many times in the Bible where God calls someone in the Bible to go away and just like experience that threshing season on their own, to come back and step into something that really will blow them away.
Yeah, for sure. I just love kind of how you even ended the sermon too, right? Like just the importance of believing in the enoughness of God, that like the grain that stays, like that's enough. Yeah. That's all that we need for God to do what he needs to do. So I just want to encourage you that no matter what season that you are in today, like God is enough, and he is going to be your provider for exactly what you have. And I love this whole like Easter season right now. We're going through this idea of like welcoming resurrection. And it's like, what can you expect God for in this next season? I feel like spring and just everything that we're in right now, it's very significant.
Yes.
And like,
and even God like doing it quickly.
Yes.
Like knowing that God will move quickly on your behalf is something that I don't think I really took in. Sometimes things would happen quickly and I'd be like, is that God? It's moving really fast. But knowing that it is God, and even Pastor on Sunday used this idea of Ruth, like that same morning she was begging to follow behind some of the farmers, and then that same evening she was sitting down and having dinner with them, which was unheard of. That's not normal for their day and age. And so just knowing that when you are welcoming resurrection, like God will move quickly on your behalf.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's so important to remember that and just believe in the impossible, even if you can't always see it. So that's it for us.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you at our worship experience on Sunday for Easter. But go back take a minute to just look at your notes, watch the sermon again, and just get everything you can. Don't let these messages pass you back. So have a blessed week.